And this was announced a few days ago. We are a little late, but there's so much news. We put so much videos together, so we'll be putting a video out on this, of course. But it is interesting that this is going to be, not only like the physical package, which I'm pretty sure that still all the money, all the proceeds towards any of this will be going to all the charities still. Now this is going to be like 2026. It's going to be next year, but I believe it's the Mercury Company or Mercuriano or something. Silver Mercury, some type of, I forget. I think it is Mercury Records or something. That will be putting this out, but it's going to be. It's weird because it's promoted as Ozzys last, not so much Sabbath, and Bill Ward, that's kind of like the whole reason, the whole idea, Ozzy wanted to do a show with Bill Ward, as Black Sabbath, because Bill Ward wasn't on the final tour with Black Sabbath. So, the original idea was all about that, but then they kind of turned it into, an Ozzy farewell thing now. Is that because they know something we don't know? Maybe Ozzy's going to not live that longer into the year? I mean, that's kind of what it's sounding like. I mean, there's... people aren't necessarily, coming out and saying that, but, they are... you got to read between the lines with some things. You kind of got to put two and two together. I don't know. This is the type of stuff people want for Eddie Van Halen. These big celebrations, these big one-offs and stuff. Led Zeppelin, obviously. The rumor of Skid Row wanting to get paid to come to this. I mean, look, Slipknot was thrown out here recently. Eddie Trunk's been talking a lot about that. Slipknot. They wanted extra money for. To put it this way, it takes a little bit more for Slipknot. They want it. They don't want to. The mask, the setup, the dress, the costumes, whatever. Basically Slipknot, they can't just show up, and it's a little bit extra stuff. So they kind of wanted to be. Now that wasn't. Now Sharon didn't say that, but Slipknot's pretty much saying that. Blah blah blah. But it still could be other bands. There was 2 members of Slipknot there, so it's not those. We have to shun the band, whoever it is. Blah blah blah. But I'm putting it out there. I'm thinking it's Skid Row. I feel like Skid Row, they definitely are in that metal hard rock pond for sure. It's not hair rock or whatever. It's definitely, Skid Row's definitely metal for sure. So it's why weren't they there? I mean, they're not even together, right? Or whatever. Sebastian Bach's not in the band, but wouldn't that be something like a one-off Skid Row, bro? You know what I'm saying? I will be bringing this up to Eddie Trunk. The whole Skid Row rumor. I mean, that really makes sense to me. People keep bringing up Motley Crue, and it's no. Vince Neil. He's Vince Neil's going through surgery, went through an operation, and so they canceled a couple shows. Motley Crue. I think they're supposed to do a residency in Vegas. If not, definitely what's that casino area in New Jersey? Atlantic City. I think they had an Atlantic City show that they canceled, but they definitely canceled 2 or 3 shows at least. Motley Crue. It's not them, or else they would have fucking been there, 1,000%. I mean, I'm gonna say, honestly, at this point, something like a Skid Row, man. A one-off, but hey, we want $5 million or something, $10 million for one-off. I don't know, that would have been cool, but then all the attention, not all the attention, but a lot would have been maybe taking off Ozzy and Sabbath if Skid Row would have reunited for a one-off. I don't know. The DVD package, though, I mean, look, this is going to be... I haven't gotten the t-shirt yet, but it does say within the week. At the end of the month, it said they would be shipping out, so... We'll do a review on the t-shirt, but like the package, you know, the movie theater thing's going to be cool. It's definitely going to be shortened down, cut down to an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. But they're really like aiming more for like the Ozzy stuff. Like, hey, it's a farewell to Ozzy, you know. They really are labeling it that and selling it as that. But like the DVD's got to have all the performances. I mean, we'll see. But it is a thing, like physical format. You know, they need to have all the performances on there. To be honest with you, I mean that's the whole point. I mean, you got to really experience the whole thing, the whole 9 hours, 8.5 hours. Make it an all-day event. But like this type of stuff, and I'll bring this up to Eddie Trunk, needs to be like, you know, this is what they should have done for like Eddie Van Halen. Now, what Sammy Hagar did last year with the tour, the Best of All Worlds tour, bringing in Joe Satriani, doing the Hagar Van Halen era catalog. I mean, that's in a way a tribute, a tip of cap to Eddie Van Halen. Now, Eddie Van Halen, there wasn't necessarily like, you know, they're not necessarily doing it like Pantera or others where they're showing pictures throughout the whole thing necessarily, like. But I mean, when you're playing the songs and they're not alive anymore, that's a tribute. So, in a way, and to me, that kind of is the tribute to Eddie. The whole tour with Sammy Hagar last year, bringing in Joe Satriani, obviously Michael Anthony on bass. So you have what, 2/5, or basically the other half. When I think about it, 2/4, half of Van Halen with Hagar and Michael Anthony. So, like, in a way, you know, and I saw that last year. I went to that, and that was probably one, you know, definitely top 5 concert I've ever been to for sure. Maybe in the top 3. But, you know, AC/DC still in that top 3 for me. You know, the Metallica thing, M72 tour. So those are kind of tough to beat. But listen, to the 18 watching, please subscribe to this channel. The DVD combo. Now, see, here's the thing. Like, when you're producing or using other bands' songs, or it takes a while to get approval, legal. You know, maybe if stuff is for charity, that's a different. Those are different rules. But you know, Eddie Trunk had this big celebration anniversary last year, House of Blues, and they professionally filmed it. And it's been over a year, but they're waiting for approval still, you know, to do something, whether it's, you know, make it a physical format or make it like a streaming thing, a permanent streaming thing. If this thing was on, if the Back to the Beginning was like on a Netflix or on a Peacock or something, I mean, that's kind of how they should have done it originally, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, people do want physical copies of this, obviously, but I mean, you got to have it on, you know, permanently on a on-demand video. You know, you can bring up on the internet, your phone, whatever. A lot of makeup was put on this. Obviously, you know, if you watch the fan film videos, Ozzy sounded very flat and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get too negative, but, you know, that is the reality to this. But all in all, man, this news was released a few days ago that, yeah, I think it's Mercury Records. It's something like that. can get a confirmation in the chat on that. Mark Mentor, did you hear about this? They're coming out with this DVD package and a cinema release, meaning you could go to your local movie theater and watch this. Now, that might be for like a one-day thing. A lot of times they do that with concerts. It's just like, it is in the movie theaters, but it's for one day only or one weekend only, or there's not a time on how long it's going to be out in the movies. Obviously, it's not going to be an 8.5 hour thing like it was streaming originally, but the Back to the Beginning concert, Black Sabbath, everything, it's definitely going to be edited down. My prediction, because they are pretty much putting it towards more of a tribute to Ozzy, it's Ozzy's last concert, Ozzy's last farewell. They're kind of booking this as, so I predict it's going to be just mostly the Ozzy performance, the Black Sabbath performance, obviously, and then a lot of backstage stuff to that. So we'll be looking forward to that. But it is confirmed that yes, there will be releases on this physically in the cinema, all kinds of packages for this, and I'm pretty sure it's all going to keep going to charity on that. But Sharon Osbourne has not released yet. But there is like new rumblings of Slipknot being the band that wanted money for this. But Slipknot, I think Slipknot came out themselves. Obviously, it wasn't Sharon, but like Slipknot came out themselves. It pretty much was like, yeah, we needed money for it. It's just extra. Bringing Slipknot on tour or on stage. They want to bring their whole stage thing. They just don't want to show up on stage with their. They have a lot going on. They're beating 5-gallon drums. They got flaming. I haven't been at a Slipknot show. I've seen obviously videos, blah blah blah. But they got all kinds of contraptions. Plus the mask, plus all that. They want to basically bring their whole live tour stage set, which costs extra money. Which that's what they wanted to be paid for, not necessarily paid for performing, but like the extra stuff that a Slipknot performance comes with. They wanted to bring the whole, all the bells and whistles, basically. Now, again, 2 members of Slipknot was there at the performance watching as fans, and a member of Slipknot actually proposed to Kelly Osbourne, for Christ's sake. So, like, there's just more stuff coming out and everything. I mean, look, it's not Motley Crue. People keep saying it's Motley Crue, and they think they know what they're talking about. It's not Motley Crue. Vince Neil had surgeries and everything. They canceled a few shows as Motley Crue. I believe they're supposed to be on tour now, maybe like a residency in Vegas, something. But that's going on. So, like, look, I'm. This is kind of far-fetched, but not really. Look, I'm thinking maybe, what if it is Skid Row? Like, what if Skid Row did want like $5 or $10 million for like 2 or 3 songs, 20-minute set? Why wasn't Sebastian Bach there, bro? Skid Row is metal, and I know Sebastian Bach isn't with Skid Row, the band, either. And Sebastian does his solo thing. Album of the year last year, for sure. Child Within a Man, Sebastian solo. But look, who's there is who's there, and what happened is what happened. But this thing is going to be talked about for a long time, and more stuff's going to keep coming out. Tony Iommi, Tom Morello, others, they already did their interviews and called in with Eddie Trunk this past few weeks on this already. A lot of these artists are doing interviews, doing radio time, coming on XM Sirius Radio, everything, coming on podcasts, talking about this. I know, look, I'll bring it up. I forgot to bring it because I called in Eddie Trunk a couple days ago. You can look that up. He's on, it was Friday. Yeah, I was like the first caller on Friday. Called in and talked about it, but like, I need to ask him, like, what's up with the, obviously now people are calling in talking about the rumors, though, of like, they're bringing up Motley Crue, and people don't know about like this Vince Neil thing, bro. And Motley Crue hasn't come out with like super details, like what surgery or what operations. But yeah, it's to the point where like they have to take a break on performing live. Vince Neil, maybe like a lap band surgery, maybe, you know what I'm saying? They haven't come out with details and said what it is, but it is, and it's nothing to be worried about. They came out and said it was like an operation, everything's good, it's just recovery. Vince Neil needs to recover from his operation. You know, they did cancel like 2 or 3 shows at least. But it's not Motley Crue, guys, or else they would have been there now. Like maybe having a Tommy Lee there, like they had a Dave Ellison. I mean, look, there's so much video, there's so much news. I mean, the Megadeth came out. I believe it was Dave Mustaine, and he was like, they pretty much didn't get an invite. You know, obviously, you know, as the weeks progress, we're going to get more, and Eddie Trunk and others did bring up Megadeth as a rumor, but like as Dave Mustaine talking about that, hey, they weren't asked. They did stick around. This is from Dave Mustaine, I believe, / or the camp of Megadeth. I heard this from Eddie Trunk show, but I think he was interviewed or something, Mustaine, and like they did, as a band, Megadeth did stick around over there in the UK for a couple days, just in case, but they didn't even get asked. They didn't get the offer to come, or they didn't get the invite, not offer, because there wasn't no money. I believe maybe flights, maybe hotels were paid from the Ozzys Sabbath camp on that, obviously, but yeah, Mustaine said, and look it up, everyone can look this up, that they did, and this is real, like they did wait around. They kind of expected, like, what? It's all a Sharon Osbourne thing. It's all a big Sharon Osbourne, you know. Why wouldn't they have the big 4 there, bro? Like, come on. But look, all in all, they need to do something like this for Eddie Van Halen. If not, you know, you did have your chance with Sammy Hagar's Best of All Worlds tour, doing the Van Halen era stuff. So we'll see. Look, there'll be videos on the Mustaine stuff coming out. Look, it's kind of far-fetched, but not really. Like, it could be a Skid Row thing. It could be Skid Row wanting like a $10-20 million offer to do a one-off or something. I mean, that would be, I don't know, that would take a lot away. I don't know, that would take, I don't know if they're taking, you know, the Ozzy stuff is, there's really no beating that, but like the Skid Row thing is pretty big too. I mean, who could it be, guys? It's definitely not the people rumored or whatever that's coming out, because it's all being debunked. You know, Megadeth was one of the strongest rumors of the one wanting to be paid. And now they're talking about this, and then Slipknot. A lot of people are leaning towards Slipknot, but then again, like, you had 2 members from Slipknot there, and a Slipknot member did propose to Kelly Osbourne. So, like, it really can't be too much like the heat on that, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, but Slipknot needs extra money for their on-stage stuff, blah, blah, blah. So that makes sense. Like, not in a dickhead way that they were asking for money. It wasn't like in an asshole type of way. It was more of like, you know, it's a little bit extra. It's not just amps and, you know, plug-in. Like, you know, we have flaming steel bins, like 5-gallon containers that they like catch on fire, and they have I forget the one dude at Slipknot. It's like the mask. He has a wiener on his face, like a big old schlong on his face, and he's like the drumsticks on fire. I mean, it's a whole nother. I mean, really the metal sound, literally the sound of metal by hitting that drum on fire. I mean, that's too extreme for me. Not really into the growly stuff. But everyone look this up. I mean, this just came out. Look, the Led Zeppelin rumors are still up there. I'm going to bring that up to Eddie Trunk. I'm going to call up this week again and ask him. Because a lot of people are but they're being dumb. They're calling out, they're asking about Motley Crue not being there. It's like, nah, you got to know the backstory to Vince Neil right now, bro. his health crisis. It's not a crisis, it's just he's recouping, he's recovering from an operation, from a surgery. None of the details of the surgery. I mean, it could be lap band surgery, it could be he broke his foot, it could be anything. None of the details on that came out. But it's not, you know, Nikki Sixx and others, you know, I think John 5 came out. It's not like life or death, but it is a recovery process, and that's why they had to cancel their shows. So, look, you can't have everyone on this thing. I mean, we get that. I mean, like a Rob Zombie wasn't there. Alice Cooper wasn't there. You know, there was definitely names that would have been cool. A lot of 80s stuff really wasn't there. If you think about it, like a lot of 80s, you know, you had your Metallica, yeah, you know, you had your, it's like 80s metal was there for sure, but like, I don't know. You could have some, it could have been better, but like, what they presented us was not bad at all. It's still 10 out of 10, you know? So, but everyone like, subscribe. We'll catch y'all later, man. Thank you. For Music Maniac.